honeybee man, Farmer Shaun. So today we're going to learn a lesson all about bees and pollinators and why they are so important for all of those delicious fruits and vegetables that we're going to have this summer. What are we going to do today, Shaun?
Hi everybody, we're here to do our first hive inspection of the spring. We're going to see how the bees are doing. We're also going to put on a new box so that they have more room to collect honey. I'm using the smoke to calm the bees down so they're less aggressive as you inspect some of the frames that are here. I'm using my hive tool to pull a frame of bees out, and you can see all that glistening honey that they're collecting. This bee right here is a drone, so that's a boy bee. And this bee right here is a worker, and that's a girl bee.
And how can you tell the difference?
The boys got big eyes, girls got little eyes. The boys don't have stingers, the girls do have stingers.
Okay.
And there are 80% females and 20% males in a bee colony.
What do the bees do over the winter time?
They cluster together in a ball and they eat the honey that they collected throughout the spring. So as a beekeeper, you want to make sure you leave enough honey behind so that they have enough to make it through the winter.
Now how come those are sticking up more?
So this is a frame of brood, which in bee language means bee eggs. And if you look right here, you can see a boy bee emerging from the cell.
Oh yeah, look at him. Hey, buddy.
So all these raised eggs are drone bees, and I'm going to pull out the next frame and I'll show you what a frame of girl bees looks like.
These are girl eggs. Anybody coming out?
And so this right here and this right here are actually queen cells.
Oh wow, those really big ones.
You have those really big ones.
Oh, how cool.
So you can see 1, 2, and 3.
Wow.
4 and 5.
Oh wow, look at that. I want to take a
And that's what the larva of the queen eats. All bees get fed royal jelly for the first 3 days of their life as an egg, or I should say as a larva. But the queen gets fed solely royal jelly for her 15 days of her life cycle.
Bees have a proboscis, which is like a big straw that they use to suck up all the nectar from the flowers when they go out there. The other cool thing is they will collect pollen as they go along, and if that goes to another flower, well, sure, it's going to help that turn to a fruit. But that pollen and also that nectar goes back to the hive where they can turn it into honey, and here we see those bees going back. Here we see a bee that's returned from foraging nectar and pollen, and we see her doing the waggle dance, and all the bees are watching so they can figure out exactly where to find the flowers. In the waggle dance, you see the bee turn in a figure-8 pattern and shake their butt at the exact same direction, and that tells the other bees where to go.
So we just put an extra box on the hive, which will be their honey super, and then in a couple weeks we'll put 2 more boxes on, and if those fill out with honey, that's the honey we'll collect and we'll sell at our market.
Yay!
What we have here is a swarm Bees naturally swarm every spring. It's a way that they can propagate. The old queen leaves with a third of the colony. What they do is they find a perch somewhere. Today they've chosen these tomato cages. Now what they're doing is they're sending scouts out into the neighborhood, and they're finding an old hollow tree that they're going to start a new colony in.
Did they pick these maybe because they're brightly colored?
It could be.
Okay.
You can typically find these on low-lying branches and fence posts.
It's very exciting. Very cool to see. Thanks, Shaun. So we make sure surrounding the entire urban farm and in between the plants, we make sure that there's lots of flowers. And we need those flowers because they are going to encourage the bees, the butterflies, and the other pollinators to come. And if they come and visit our flowers, well, they're probably gonna come visit our vegetables and plants and fruits. So as we continue our talk about pollination, I wanted to show you something that's happening at the farm. So a lot of the vegetables that we eat are actually fruits because they started as a flower that was pollinated by a bee. So I wanted to show you guys what I'm looking at here in our garden, which is our peas. So our sugar snap peas, once they are this about 3 feet tall, they do get these flowers on it, and we will see the bees come and pollinate those flowers. And then after that flower's been pollinated, you start to get this pea that will start to grow, and they will continue to grow. And these are sugar snap peas. So once they're maybe a little bit bigger than this, be ready to be picked, and you can eat the whole shell and everything. Here you can still see the flower attached to the pea, right? I saw those white flowers. And even if I were to open up this flower, which is hard for me to do with one hand. So if I open up this flower, this little tiny thing in here is the beginning of our sugar snap pea. Can't wait to try them. So here's one of my sugar snap peas ready to go. They're such a crunchy and delicious snack, and they will be for sale at our farm stand coming up really soon. The book I want to read for you today for our lesson on pollinators is called Bees, Bees, and it's a delightful story that's all about the importance of bees and about a little girl named Bee. So this is by Katherine Pryor. She also did the book Sylvia Spinach that I read to you guys before. So this is Bees, Bees. Beatrix heard a humming as she walked through the park on her way home from school. She followed the sound to a hollow oak tree. A cloud of wild bumblebees flew in and out of a hidden beehive like it was the world's busiest airport. Bee crept closer. The bees flew zigzags and crazy eights, and they hovered and dove. They zipped out fast, but flew home slowly. Their tiny bodies weighed down with pollen and nectar. And hopefully I'll get a video to show you guys some bees with pollen on their legs. Bee visited the hive every day. She watched the bees flit from flower to flower, buzzing with happiness as they collected food for their families. See them in the hive. But then one day, the tree was silent.
A lonely butterfly circled the oak tree, looking for its friends. But its friends were gone. The next day at school, Bee told her teacher what had happened. "Where did my bees go?" she asked. "I don't know," the teacher sighed. "Sometimes bees just disappear." Well, Bee didn't like that one bit. How could a whole hive disappear? The park was quiet as she walked home, and Bee looked toward the oak tree, but even the butterfly was gone. Then Bee noticed something else. The flowers around the oak tree had been cut down. Beatrix knew that bees like flowers. Well, that's how they get all their food. So the next time Bee's class went to the library, she rushed for the librarian. "Well, what types of flowers do bees like?" "I don't know," said the librarian. "Let's find out." Bee read everything she could about bees. She learned that they like to eat pollen and nectar from lots of different flowers, and that they need lots of open space to find them. She also learned that bees are a type of pollinator, which means they carry pollen from flower to flower. Without bees, blueberries, raspberry, and pumpkin plants would not be able to turn their flowers into fruit. There would be no more apples or almonds or avocados. And without bees, some of Beatrix's favorite foods would disappear. So she began to make a plan. In the early wet days of spring, Bee planted wildflower seeds around the base of her tree. She planted mint and clover and sunflowers, and the seedlings began to sprout, and the flowers began to bloom. But the tree stayed silent. She did her science fair project on bees, and she handed out wildflower seeds to everyone at school and asked them to help feed the bees. All over the neighborhood, their seedlings sprouted and their flowers bloomed. Look how pretty that is now with all the flowers. But still, the tree was silent. Beatrix began to lose hope. She sat by her tree and cried sad tears at the thought of losing her bees forever. But then she heard it. What do you think she heard? Look at those beautiful flowers she has. My goodness, it's a paradise for bees. A single bumblebee buzzed past, landing on one of the sunflowers. She saw another and another, and bees flew out of a nest in the ground near the hollow oak tree. They hovered and dove. They flew zigzags and crazy eights, and they zipped out to find pollen and nectar. And then they flew home, slow and fat, to feed their family. Bees were back. So I like the story because it talks about some of the things these bees need to survive. And they even show on this page, I really like this page, because it shows some of the common flowers that bees are attracted to and what she was growing in her garden. And what we're going to do is I'm going to take you guys to my garden that I have here at my house. And maybe even I'll show you some photos from the farm. Some of these aren't in bloom just yet because it is still really early, but I know that once these flowers start to bloom, well then the bees and the butterflies are gonna come back to visit. But you can see some of the flowers that are listed. Things like coneflower, bee balm, black-eyed Susans, sunflowers, asters. Those don't bloom until the end of the summer, into the fall. Lavender, borage, we grow a lot of that at the farm. In fact, we plant that next to a lot of our plants to encourage the bees to come to. Once they come to the borage, they're also going to come to the flowers on the plants on our fruits and vegetables at the farm. Crocus is something that blooms early in the season. They're already done. They were blooming back in March and April. And goldenrod is something, I have a lot of that, that will be blooming from July all the way until November. Sedum is in the end of the year, end of the summer. And the other thing is dandelions. I mean, a lot of people see dandelion as a weed, but that's a great food source and an early nectar food source for our bees. So I hope you enjoyed Bees as much as I did. So we just finished Bees, and I just wanted to show you some of these plants that are listed in the back of the book that I have here in my garden. So if you want to have a pollinator-friendly garden, there's a couple things you need to have. Number one, a food source, and the food source is the nectar from the different flowers. Number two is water. So here we have our little water source, and yes, it's a bird bath. So not only do the birds enjoy having that water, and you can hear them chirping away, but so do our bees and butterflies and other pollinators. And the other thing is someplace for shelter, someplace where the bees can hide. So whether you have like a little bee house or shrubs that they can hide in is a good thing. Now, for some of the flowers that I have, so in the book, they talk about coneflower. So we do have coneflowers that are growing here. And this is one of them, and I'll show you what it looks like come summer. This, we have our black-eyed Susans or brown-eyed Susans. I have lots of goldenrod, and I'll show you guys what the goldenrod looks like come fall with the beautiful yellow, and actually at the end, in the middle of summer, sorry. Also my asters. So we have plenty of asters. These are some, and if you notice this, well, not only do the bees and butterflies like asters, but so do deer. So these have actually been eaten. The tips have been eaten by the deer. The next plant that is a huge nectar source for our bees, and then also a whole food source for our monarch butterflies, is milkweed. And this milkweed, we can see, these are going to be our flowers. I'll show you guys what those flowers are going to look like, and probably in about 2-3 weeks these flowers will be blooming, and as soon as they bloom, those monarchs will appear, and it's wonderful because then they'll lay their eggs on the underside. Those eggs will turn into caterpillars, which will then turn again into the monarch butterflies. Another food source for our bees and our butterflies is this, which right now is closed. But if you zoom in a few weeks, those beautiful purple flowers are going to open up. They'll smell real good, and that is our lavender. So we actually got our yard certified as a wildlife habitat. It's really easy to do through the National Wildlife Federation, and I'll give you information on that, but it's a great source for making sure that you have the correct native plants for our bees. And you don't need something like this. I mean, certainly you can do this on a small scale. Any little flower is going to help those pollinators. So come July, this whole area will be full of life.